I came across a short reel on Facebook by a guy called Tommy about how to drastically and dramatically improve a relationship or marriage. And I actually want to share this with you and make some commentaries because I find that if we take on board what he's saying, you will be surprised of how your relationship or marriage could quantum leap positively. Let's just hear what he has to say first, and then I'll come back and give you a few more comments.
2 things to implement in your marriage that will make a massive impact quickly. First, always assume the best and never assume the worst. And second, always focus on what they're doing right rather than what they're doing wrong.
Always assume the best and never assume the worst. We are creatures of assumption. We always assume it. That's how the brain works. You see someone for the first time, you size them up, you look at how they keep themselves, and you make general assumptions. You know, the mind has to do that in order to orient itself as how best to relate to people, individuals, and situations. However, the mind has a way, if something goes wrong, of assuming the worst. Before I go down that rabbit hole, let me tell you about a website or a lady called Patty Newbold. She actually runs a website called Assume Love. Assume that you are loved. And when you operate from that stance, then it is far easier to navigate the tricky situations and circumstances when your spouse act out of character or do something that hurts you. If you assume that this person who stood before many people, dozens or scores or hundreds of people, and professed their undying love and covenanted to you that he or she loves you, if you assume that he still loves you, that however, whatever he's doing now is out of character, is not the right thing to do, then it's easier to look beyond the presenting behavior, like what mothers do. I always use this example that a mother, particularly a mother and father too, they have a way of excusing the behavior, the bad behavior of a child. Or sometimes they would say things like, oh, he hasn't had his meal, he's a bit irritated or irritable, he hasn't had his afternoon nap. They look beyond the presenting behavior, or they find a way of not excusing it, but finding a rationale for it. And when they do that, they're able to continue loving that child, despite the tantrums, despite the rude behavior, despite the negative behavior that that child has. I also read this book. This book is a very good book. What to Do When He Won't Change, which is saving your marriage relationship when he's angry, selfish, unhappy, or avoids you. It's written by a guy called Jack Ito. And Jack Ito, I like reading his stuff. And he says here that if you're in a relationship where your husband is kind of acting out of character and you're thinking that he doesn't love you and you're going through a rough patch, he says if your husband is still with you, if he is still in the house, if he continues to be, and this goes for either husband or wife, but he's talking to wives here. He says, when we start with the assumption that he wants to have a relationship with you and loves you, but goes about it the wrong way, it becomes easier to love him and help him. He's more misguided than he is a monster. That's powerful. The problem with jumping to conclusion and assuming the negative intent of someone is that we probably don't fully grasp everything that's going on. In that person's life, they might be stressed at work. Maybe that person is triggered. Maybe that person is still reacting from childhood trauma. There is a whole kaleidoscope of events that's going on beyond your consciousness, beyond your ability to see, within that person's spirit, mind, soul, that is informing the way he or she is responding and reacting in the moment. And sometimes if you give grace, if you think before knee-jerk reacting or counteracting or acting in response to the particular behavior, you would find that maybe he's just having a bad day. And even if it's a series of behavior, you need to be very careful of what is known as the negativity bias. Negativity bias says if you think negatively about something and attribute negative intentions about that particular thing, your mind goes down the path of finding evidence to back up your assumption. In other words, if you think that your spouse is being spiteful, if you think your spouse is intentionally trying to hurt you, and maybe they are, what happens is that your mind begins to look for evidence what you have concluded. And funnily enough, your mind blocks out anything else that doesn't align with that decision. Even if the person is doing a world of good, your mind doesn't see it. It's almost like buying a new car and all of a sudden you see the same brand of cars everywhere. Guess what? They were always there, but your mind wasn't looking for them. Similarly, if you think of positive things and attribute positive intention, and even if you look at it from the way the parent would look at a child and assume love, the outcome is more likely to be better. Your relationship would become enriched and enhanced. This is not to say that you should ignore dangerous, aggressive behavior. This is not to say that you should stay in a danger zone. None of that. However, where assume that you're still loved, and your mind would look for evidences of that love. And chances are you will find them. So I guess what I'm saying, instead of the attribution error, what we want to do is to have a positive attribution error. I hope that helps. If you disagree, please do so in the comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know how you feel. And we could have a ding-dong conversation. And if you are in the throes of a high conflict relationship, a marital crisis, and you want support, I have a few spots open. Please feel free to use the link in the bio, and let's see how we could strategize so that we could turn conflict into connection. Talk soon.